Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So before I talk about the vice taxes and why it's obvious that my model for combating poverty is far superior to, say, the Republican models we're seeing, let me talk about what happens when you tax rich people at a higher rate and evil people leave those states and go to a state like, say, Mississippi, which just eliminated its income tax. Well, quite often, I'd imagine more often than not, and if you know anything about it, please put it in the comments, these people leave their businesses in the state that they were living in before. And correct me if I'm wrong, they pay less, or they pay no income tax on, state income tax on the income from those businesses. And they have federal tax cuts on the federal income tax coming soon if the bill passes. And last I checked, the bill was at $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, unless they amend it or something. And one of my arguments is they should reduce the amount of tax cuts if they're going to pass the bill at all, and they shouldn't pass it at all, mind you, to, say, $2 trillion in tax cuts and use $2.5 trillion to really help poor people in this country. Build affordable housing, a massive farming program, and homelessness, what have you. And of course, they shouldn't touch Medicaid or Social Security. They should only go after what is actually fraud. Okay, so those people who are rich, they move to, say, Mississippi, and they continue to make money off Californians. So what should Californians do? They should look at all the people who are graduating college, look at people who have the expertise, who've graduated college already some years back, and they should start businesses to compete with the individuals who have left the state, because they're basically just exploiting the labor of the state. They're just ripping the people off, and they're just bringing the state down when they leave. Also, I challenge people to a debate on what the ideal person is. Is the ideal person some kind of capitalist pig that rips everyone else off? Is it Lex Luthor and the Penguin putting their nose up at Tiny Tim while he goes homeless? Or is it a righteous person? Or is it something that's laughable, which is something in between? Why would you only want to be halfway good and be halfway evil? Just so you can have lots of blood money? That's stupid. So now let's talk about vice taxes. I propose around $36 billion in vice taxes. And they go as follows. 5% alcohol tax, which would bring in $14.14 billion. And a 5% cigarette tax, which would bring in $9.5 billion. Together, they would bring in about $25.54 billion. I proposed a 2% pet food tax, pet food and pet supply tax, which would bring in $2.9 billion. And a 2% jewelry tax, which would bring in $1.28 billion. With all four of these taxes, that's $29.72. But I'm not done there. I propose a 2% candy tax, which would bring $432 million a year. I propose a 1% fast food tax, which would bring in $3.43 billion a year. For example, if you go to a fast food place and you spend $10, 1% is only 10 cents. But it would bring in $3.43 billion a year. I propose luxury taxes and porn taxes and cannabis taxes. It would bring in $2.5 billion a year for a sum total of around $36 billion a year. And we adjust the taxes to make sure we bring in at least $36 billion a year to build rehabs for the homeless relative to where homeless people are. For example, 1 in 4 or so homeless people are said to be in California, which means for the 39 million people or so that live in California, they would bring in approximately $9 billion a year to build and operate rehabs and to give people the mental health treatment they need, in those rehabs, partially in those rehabs. Because about 1 in 4 homeless people live in California. Now, they've made it hard for me to make this video in various ways. There's hackers and other things that they do. But I assure you, my models are sound. I'm not a politician. I'm the son of a humanitarian. I have other credentials as well that I'm not going to bring up in this video because some people aren't mature enough to handle them. If you really want to know, put it in the comments, I'll tell you. I am somebody who can be trusted. The political parties cannot be trusted. But if they cite me and present this plan is trustworthy, and it also comes with an FBI branch or group that tracks the money in real time, that posts websites, that posts the information on websites and YouTube channels. For example, there's the general money that's tracked. Okay? Well, I'm feeling pretty heavily here. Anyway, so when you ask yourself, where does the $36 billion go? There's generally where it goes. And then there's regions, right? States, cities, what have you. And you can have different channels that show you where it's going, and you can compare it, you can compare the spending to private purchases. How much do private corporations spend for comparable buildings? Also keep in mind that Mississippi only took in $2.2 billion in income taxes, state income taxes, in the year 2024, according to Fox News. So they don't have that much to lose by making it so that their state eliminates the state income tax. That's very important to note. California is like almost $80 billion or so, in debt, or their deficit, what have you. They can't afford to eliminate the state income tax. And don't forget that I'm telling people to organize and help me get the facts on these things. They make it very hard for me to get the facts. It's clear in this video I'm right. It's clear in every video that I'm right. But I assure you, they're making it hard for me to get facts, and there's other things that I need to help make my case. It's clear that I'm right, and it's clear that people need to organize and help me. And if they sabotage us, it's easier to sue them if we organize together. If your lives are miserable, it's first and foremost caused by you not organizing and helping me. I've never even heard of someone else who's trying to solve these issues who has pure intentions